My wedding and my elder sister's were on the same day. The day before the wedding, my fiancé Meng Qin came to find me. With a cold expression, he issued his commands to me one by one. Yang Li, you should know that the one I love is not you, but your elder sister. Tomorrow, you and your elder sister will swap wedding gowns. I have already arranged everything. Since your figures are similar and you'll be wearing the veil, no one will notice, once the wedding night is over. Even if others have objections, they will have no choice but to let it go. I know you have feelings for me, but matters of the heart cannot be forced. I only have feelings for your elder sister. I cut him off. She flashed him a bright smile. All right, I agree to switch marriages. Meng Qin's words got stuck in his throat. His expression shifted to one of astonishment. It seemed he hadn't expected me to agree so readily, but he didn't know that I had been reborn in this life. I didn't want to have any involvement with him anymore. Ali, are you really sure about this? Upon hearing my answer, Meng Qin himself seemed a bit hesitant. I curled the corner of my mouth and replied nonchalantly, of course, wasn't that your own suggestion? A gentleman helps others fulfill their wishes. Though I am a woman, I cannot bring myself to take what another holds dear. Since you and my elder sister are in love, I will step aside and let her have this marriage. Meng Qin seemed somewhat skeptical of my words. You'd better be. If I find out you're up to any tricks, I won't let you off. After delivering the harsh words, Meng Qin turned and left. I, however, let out a long sigh of relief. Thankfully, we hadn't gotten married yet. There is still time for everything. I've always been timid and cautious. In my previous life, when Meng Qin proposed the marriage swap, I refused. I patiently explained to him. Elder sister and Lord Pei's marriage was arranged by His Majesty. If we privately switch brides and displease the emperor, I fear it will affect the careers of both families. If you and elder sister truly love each other, I certainly won't stand in your way. After some time, we can find a reason to divorce. And I doubt His Majesty will have anything to say about it. Lord Pei once told elder sister that he would sign a divorce agreement in advance, so she would be free to come and go as she pleases. But Meng Qin simply wouldn't listen to my words. He was convinced that I only wanted to cling to him, so he refused to agree to their plan. Do you actually believe the words of that good-for-nothing Pei Shi? He's just eager to trick a Dao into marrying into their family. Your persistent and clingy attitude is truly disgusting. I'm telling you, Yang Li, even if you go to great lengths to marry into the Meng family, I won't touch you. I only love your elder sister. You can spend your life waiting in vain. As it turned out, I didn't end up waiting in vain. On a night when Meng Qin was drunk, he disregarded my resistance. He forced me to consummate the marriage. He cursed at me while taking possession of me. I even bore him a son and a daughter, both of whom turned out to be ungrateful. My status in the Meng household is even lower than that of our Huang, the dog raised by Madame Meng. Even the stewardess can look down on me. As a result, my own children are not close to me. Under Madame Meng's instigation, they even refuse to call me mother. Just call her that woman. I looked around the familiar boudoir, feeling a wave of fear in my heart. Actually, marrying Pei Shi isn't such a bad idea. He is a gentleman worth entrusting one's life to. Pei Shi once took an arrow for His Majesty, injuring one of his legs. To this day, he still walks with a limp. There are even rumors circulating that his injuries were so severe that he became impotent. Feeling guilty, His Majesty ordered the imperial astronomers to calculate his birth chart. He betrothed my eldest sister to him. Pei Shi repeatedly declined, saying he did not wish to ruin a woman's life. But my father, eager to climb the social ladder by connecting with the Pei family, hastily agreed. After some thought, Pei Shi ultimately went in person to ask for my eldest sister's opinion. The moment my eldest sister saw Pei Shi's face, she couldn't take her eyes off him. Although Pei Shi had practiced martial arts since childhood, his face was delicate and handsome, especially those eyes, which seemed capable of captivating one's soul. After a moment of hesitation, my eldest sister shyly and timidly agreed to the marriage, and Pei Shi also made a promise to let her go at any time. I am timid by nature and a child of a concubine, so I have never been valued by my father. Logically speaking, being betrothed to someone like Meng Qin could be considered a blessing I have earned. Meng Qin used to treat me quite well. after we got engaged, he would often bring me all sorts of fresh trinkets from outside. Sometimes it was a rabbit-shaped sugar painting, sometimes a rabbit lantern, or maybe a kite shaped like a rabbit. He said I was like a pitiful little rabbit with no one to love, and it made his heart ache just to look at me. Until he happened to meet his elder sister and saw her climbing the peach tree to pick peaches, everything changed. It was the first time he had seen such a bright, unrestrained, and vibrant woman. A woman named Yang Dao climbed a tree to pick peaches. What a lovely scene. Just this one glance was enough to captivate him deeply. He began to despise me for being timid, weak, and rule-abiding. Yang Li, I'm really fed up with your boring demeanor. What difference is there between a life like yours and those puppets on stage? I remained silent. In this household, Yang Dao can be as unruly and coquettish as she pleases, because there is someone to back her up, but I cannot, for my mother passed away early. I was not favored by my father either. When we made mistakes as children, our father would punish us by making us kneel in the ancestral hall. Yang Dao had a soft cushion and food prepared by her mother. Or her mother could make a fuss to spare her from punishment, but there is no one behind me. The floor of the ancestral hall is too hard, and strange winds can always be heard late at night. I am too afraid. I cannot make any more mistakes. I do not want to kneel in the ancestral hall. I don't know when Meng Qin and my elder sister got together. I saw Meng Qin coming to my house more and more frequently. His attitude towards me grew increasingly cold. My elder sister gradually began to feel dissatisfied with her marriage. She went to her father to make a scene over and over again. Her father could indulge her in other matters, but not in this one. It concerned her father's official career, so even if her mother came to make a scene, it would be useless. Elder sister was placed under house arrest by her father, and our marriage arrangements were also put on the agenda. As evening fell, my eldest sister came to my courtyard for the first time ever. I heard you agreed to switch marriages. I nodded. The atmosphere was somewhat awkward, as my eldest sister and I were not usually close. At that moment, there was nothing to say. The elder sister remained silent for a moment before speaking. This matter is my fault. Feel free to make any requests you have. I smiled and said, feelings cannot be forced, and this matter is not solely your fault. Lord Pei is a good man, and I am quite satisfied with this marriage. There is no need for you to compensate me. My elder sister also smiled with a sense of relief. If you ever need help in the future, just let me know. This time, I owe you one. She stood up to leave, and I called out to stop her. Sister, Meng Qin is not a good match. If you ever regret it in the future, remember to step back in time. My sister did not agree with my words. Ali, you don't understand Meng Qin. You don't know what a good person he is. I interrupted her directly. As long as you have no regrets yourself, remember to keep a good mood and don't mind the gossip of others. My elder sister was a bit confused and didn't quite understand my words, but she still agreed and left. In her previous life, my elder sister died from a difficult childbirth. Not long after marrying Pei Shi, the imperial physician routinely checked the health of all members of the royal family. It was discovered that my elder sister was already 3 months pregnant. Such matters could not be kept secret forever, and somehow the news spread to every street and alley. It instantly caused a huge uproar. There have long been rumors in the city that the heir is impotent. Now, the newlywed of the Pei family has just entered the household and is already 3 months pregnant. The heir's mansion seems to be shrouded in a layer of green clouds. The emperor was furious. Your Majesty intends to thoroughly investigate this matter and even plans to sentence my elder sister to death. Pei Shi hurriedly admitted that he had been intimate with my elder sister before the marriage. This child is his. No matter how Pei Shi tried to explain, it was difficult to silence the endless gossip from the crowd. The eldest sister also felt guilty and went crying to Meng Qin, but at this moment, the eldest sister was like a hot potato. And Meng Qin dared not get involved in the slightest. He wished he could immediately draw a clear line with her. Unable to find comfort from the one she loved and constantly hearing those unpleasant rumors, depressed all day long, it led to a difficult childbirth resulting in the death of both mother and child. After the death of my elder sister, Meng Qin was in great pain. He believed that it was my refusal to switch marriages that caused the death of my elder sister and his child. He transferred all his hatred onto me. He even began to physically abuse me. I even thought about running away, but while taking action, I accidentally bumped into my ungrateful son. He immediately went and told Meng Qin. Meng Qin caught me and gave me another severe beating. That day, he had been drinking and didn't know his own strength, accidentally killing me. When I woke up again, I was back in this boudoir. Since Meng Qin was my elder sister's own choice, I decided to respect her decision. On the day of the grand wedding, everything in sight was a glaring red. My elder sister and I tacitly exchanged positions, each taking the other's maid by the hand. My elder sister's eyes were brimming with barely contained joy. I shook my head helplessly and stepped into the Pei family's bridal sedan. Pei Shi was very gentle, limping over to personally help me out of the sedan. His palm was slightly cool, and I couldn't see the path clearly. So I let him lead me into the mansion for the wedding ceremony. After the ceremony, I sat on the bed, anxiously waiting for Pei Shi to lift the bridal veil. Just as I was starting to feel a bit drowsy, Pei Shi entered. Upon seeing me beneath the veil, Pei Shi was slightly surprised. Then I immediately realized, "Your elder sister regrets it, doesn't she?" I had intended to deliver the lines I had prepared, but Pei Shi saw right through me at a glance. I felt a bit flustered, unsure of what to do. Pei Shi gently comforted me. "No need to be nervous." He glanced at his own leg and said with a bitter smile, "It's only natural that she doesn't think much of me, but I'm sorry to have put you through this. I will rewrite a letter of separation. If you do not wish to stay in the Pei residence, you may leave at any time." He did not blame me. Instead, he comforted me. Such a gentle person should not have had such a life. In the previous life, after my elder sister passed away, Pei Shi never remarried. No matter how the emperor tried to persuade him, he remained unmoved. He looked directly at the emperor and said, "I have already caused the death of one woman. If I am to bear the burden of another life, I would rather die to atone for my sins." From then on, the emperor completely abandoned the idea of arranging a marriage for him. Such a person is far better than countless other men in the world. Marrying him was not a last resort, it was a choice I made willingly. I raised my face and timidly said to Pei Shi, "Are you disappointed because the one marrying you today is not my elder sister? I promise I'll be very obedient at the Pei residence. I won't cause any trouble, and I eat very little. Please don't send me away, okay?" Pei Shi's ears flushed red with urgency. "Don't misunderstand me, it's not that I dislike you. Rather, I'm afraid you might dislike me. As long as you're willing, you can stay at the Pei residence for as long as you like." I raised an innocent smile, staring at Pei Shi. "Husband, you are so handsome, how could I ever dislike you?" I didn't notice at the moment that I had already changed my way of addressing him. The blush on Pei Shi's ears spread all the way to his neck. A man of 7 feet was now somewhat at a loss. He saw me rubbing my sore shoulders. In a fluster, he wanted to come over and help remove the phoenix crown from my head. His sudden closeness. I instinctively raised my hand to shield my head and backed away. The years I spent with Meng Qin made me extremely resistant to men getting close, especially the moment Pei Shi raised his hand. It reminded me of the fists that rained down on me like a storm. Pei Shi looked at me with a touch of heartache in his eyes. "In the Yang household, are there still people who often hit you?" I couldn't think of any other explanation, so I went along with it and said, "So please, don't drive me away, okay? I don't want to go back to that home." Pei Shi sympathetically patted my shoulder, showing a sense of righteousness as he said, "I never knew you had been living such a life before. Don't worry, from now on, as long as I'm here, I won't let you suffer the slightest grievance." Seeing Pei Shi like this, I inexplicably found it both amusing and touching. Perhaps noticing my aversion to being touched by others, Pei Shi lay far away on the other side of the bed. There's enough space between us to fit at least 2 more adults. Out of respect for his male dignity, I didn't make any moves either, and so, we spent our wedding night peacefully. The next day, we served tea to Pei Shi's parents. I haven't figured out how to explain this matter to them yet. Unexpectedly, when the prince and princess saw that their daughter-in-law had been replaced, they did not show any sign of surprise. Pei Shi gently squeezed my hand and whispered, I have already explained it to them clearly, no need to worry. I gave him a grateful smile. The princess consort was very kind and bestowed upon me a set of headwear that the dowager consort had once worn, along with a pair of crystal-clear jade bracelets. She held my hand, her eyes brimming with a smile. My health is not good, and I only have Ashur as my son. Now that you are here, it makes up for my regret of not having a daughter. I see that you are a well-behaved one. If Ashur ever bullies you in the future, just tell me, and I will certainly not let him off. The princess consort's words nearly brought tears to my eyes. The feeling of being protected is truly wonderful. I shook my head repeatedly. My husband treats me very well, he would never bully me. The prince and princess exchanged a knowing glance and smiled at each other. I don't know how Paisha explained the matter to His Majesty, but the emperor did not blame us. He even bestowed upon me many jewels. Looking at these sparkling jewels, I smiled so widely that my eyes disappeared. Paisha teased me with a smile, calling me a little moneygrubber. 3 days later, we returned to my family home. I saw Mengqin and my elder sister again. They were holding hands. Exceptionally affectionate, Mengqin looked at Paisha's hand resting on my shoulder, his expression turning cold. His expression was somewhat complicated. My elder sister was very happy to see me. After her marriage, she seemed to have grown much closer to me. Once we entered the room, she took my hand. She told me how well Mengqin treated her and thanked me for agreeing to switch marriages with her back then. I smiled and responded, asking how her mother-in-law treated her. Elder sister's expression changed slightly. Then she smiled and said, "Since ancient times, it's common for a mother-in-law to set rules for her daughter-in-law. After all, I'm not the one living with her, so I can just endure it." This Mother Meng is indeed not easy to get along with. In my previous life, after she realized Mengqin's attitude toward me, she became even more exceptionally harsh toward me. Things like morning and evening greetings, and being made to stand in the snow as punishment were common occurrences. I had thought that with Mengqin's protection, my elder sister might have it a bit better, but it seems that is not the case. Regardless, this is her own life to live. After talking with my elder sister, I left the room intending to find Paisha. At the corner, I was blocked by Mengqin. He came over and tried to grab my hand, but I gently avoided it. I gritted my teeth and said, "Brother-in-law, please show some self-respect." He looked me up and down, speaking to himself. "Ali, you've been reborn too, haven't you? That's why you agreed to the marriage swap. I've remembered everything from our past life. This time, your agreement to swap marriages makes up for the mistakes of the past life. The grudges between us can be considered settled." I made no effort to hide my disgust for him. "Since you've remembered everything, you should know how disgusted I am to see you, right? Why don't you just get lost?" Mengqin remained motionless, curling his lips into a meaningful smile. He spoke in a knowing tone. "I know Paisha is just a useless waste. He can't satisfy you. As long as you're willing, we can still." "Shut up." I was instantly filled with rage, and a surge of malice rose within me. I slapped Mengqin with all my strength. His head was knocked to the side by my blow, and for a moment, he couldn't react. I shouted angrily, "Even a single toe of Paisha is 1,000, no, 10,000 times better than you. Does the Meng family not have a mirror, or is there no urine? Why don't you take a look at yourself? How dare a petty person like you compare yourself to him? Am I really that good?" Paisha's teasing voice came from behind. I'm a bit flustered, afraid he might hear about my rebirth. "Husband, when did you arrive?" Paisha's smile remained unchanged. "Just now, when I heard you say I was 10,000 times better than him. I never expected my wife to be so vivid when she scolds someone." I let out a slight sigh of relief. Paisha took my hand, which was still numb from the shock, and pulled me behind him. Seeing his action, Mengqin's eyes held a faint trace of unwillingness. It seemed as if he were trying to bore a hole through Paisha's hand with his gaze. Paisha ignored his stare and said coldly to Mengqin, "Ali is no longer your fiancé, she is now my wife. I have evidence of all the dirty deeds your father has done. If I find out you harass her again, your Meng family can expect to be raided." With that, Paisha left without waiting for Mengqin's reply. He took my hand and left the backyard without looking back. After returning to the Pei residence, I suddenly remembered something. Since Peisha is reborn, he should know that my elder sister is pregnant, but since the child is his, this time, he will surely resolve everyone's gossip. Thinking of this, my anxious heart settled down. Time passed quickly in the Pei residence. I pinched the newly grown flesh on my belly, muttering complaints about the Pei family's food being too good. Peisha listened, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. You keep saying you want to lose weight every day. But I haven't seen you take even one less bite of that big pork knuckle. I puffed up with anger and reached out to hit him. Who could resist eating that when it's right there on the table? Peisha smiled and caught my flailing wrist. He gently held my wrist, yet it was enough to keep me from moving. I suddenly realized what I was doing. I immediately withdrew my hand and put on an obedient expression. Perhaps it was because Peisha gave me such a strong sense of security. It had been a long time since I had relaxed and played around with someone like this. No matter what, Peisha is still a noble heir. He is the legitimate master of this household. I will have to rely on him for my livelihood in the future. He can decide what kind of life I will lead in this household. He could even decide my life and death. If I accidentally angered him, he could easily crush me. Peisha watched my ever-changing expression. He seemed to see through my thoughts. He sighed and said, I don't know what you went through at the Yang residence, but this is the Pei residence, and you are the mistress here. You don't have to worry about anyone's opinion. If you're angry, you can hit me or scold me. Show the same spirit you had when dealing with Meng Qin that day. I know you can't let down your guard and trust me. It's okay. It's because I haven't done enough yet. One day, I'll make sure you don't have to pretend in front of me, and you can just be yourself. Peisha's words brought tears to my eyes. What he didn't know was that in the Yang residence, I had only learned to act obedient. What truly left a shadow on me was the hellhole that was the Meng residence. Not many days had passed. Someone from the Yang family suddenly came to call me back. Peisha had a very poor impression of the Yang family. Fearing that something might happen to me, he insisted on going back with me. As soon as I got home, I saw my mother's face covered in worry. My father sighed repeatedly beside her, saying, What a misfortune for our family. The moment my mother saw me, a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes. The moment I saw Peisha, I hesitated to speak. I immediately realized that this matter must not be known to Peisha. I asked Peisha to wait outside the door. Only then did my mother, in tears, tell me the whole story. Peach is over 3 months pregnant. I don't know what the current situation is. I can only pretend to be shocked. How could this be? Elder sister has only been married for half a month. That's exactly it. Peach has already been intimate with Meng Qin, and he acknowledges the child, but Meng's mother refuses to accept it, saying that the Yang family's daughter was promiscuous before marriage. And the child might not even be his. She insists that Meng Qin divorce her. I fell silent for a moment. Shouldn't Meng Qin be the one to explain this to his mother? What good will it do to call me back? My mother took my hand. You and Meng Qin were once engaged. He often came to see you. So you must have known about his relationship with Peach all along, right? Please go and help explain it to Meng's mother. You are now the wife of the heir, so your words carry some weight. Mother knows you have always been the most obedient. Could you help your elder sister? Mother is usually decisive and efficient. Seeing her in this state now, my heart aches with sorrow. My envy for my elder sister grew even stronger. If there was someone who tried every possible way to be good to me, without any conditions, then my life would not have been lived in vain. My mother seemed to know that she hadn't shown much concern for me on ordinary days, and at this moment, she felt somewhat uncertain in her heart. I thought about it. Although she had never shown me any extra care, she had never treated me harshly either. Besides, if something like this happened at the Yang residence, it wouldn't do me any good either. I nodded and agreed. My mother's eyes were filled with sincere gratitude. I asked Peisha to return to the Pei residence first, quietly following my mother to the Meng family. In the front hall of the Meng family, Mrs. Meng sat in the high seat. My elder sister knelt below, secretly shedding tears. Meng Qin stood to the side with a helpless expression on his face. Seeing her mother's arrival, the eldest sister's face showed even more grievance. Mother, this child is truly Meng Qin's. I have never been intimate with anyone else. Please, tell my mother-in-law. Mother embraced the eldest sister and comforted her, saying, "Don't be afraid, I believe you." Mother Meng sneered. I had no idea that the esteemed minister's household raised their daughters in such a manner, to engage in such illicit affairs before even being married. Others say it is my Meng family who is reaching above our station by marrying into the Yang household. Let everyone hear this, even if she is the daughter of a prime minister. Our Meng family wants no part of such a shameless woman. Upon hearing her eldest sister being insulted, Mother felt a surge of anger. Yet she still managed to restrain herself. "Mother-in-law, my daughter has indeed made mistakes, but this matter is not solely her fault. After all, this child is of the Meng family's bloodline, so you are not at a loss. If both families work together to cover this up, my Yang family will certainly remember your kindness." After listening, Mother Meng gently tapped the table, her eyes filled with disdain. "You say it's the Meng family's bloodline, but do you have proof? To have someone else's child so casually while still unmarried, such a bastard, my Meng family dares not acknowledge. You should take her back today. I fear that keeping such a woman in the Meng family will tarnish our family's reputation." My mother looked at me with a pleading gaze, urging me to step forward and speak up for my elder sister. I took a step forward and bowed to Mother Meng. "Aunt, since Meng Qin has already admitted that it is his child, why must you press so hard? My elder sister usually never steps out of the house." It was Meng Qin who often used the excuse of looking for me to visit the Yang residence to see her, but now they are already married. Otherwise, my elder sister could have accused him of forcibly taking a common woman. Fortunately, my elder sister and I accidentally swapped wedding dresses. If she had become the consort, your entire Meng family would likely have been implicated. Mother Meng glanced at me sideways and sneered. I wondered who it was. "So it's the newly elevated consort. Now that you've become a relative of the royal family, you no longer show respect to your elders. If the Pei family finds out that a daughter of the Yang family has done such a disgraceful thing, I wonder if you can still sit comfortably as the consort." I smiled faintly. But what good would that do for the Meng family? Lady Meng was taken aback for a moment. She had only wanted to put her elder sister in her place. She would never be able to hold her head up in the Meng family for the rest of her life. However, offending the Yang family and the Pei family would bring no benefit to the Meng family whatsoever. On the contrary, it would even affect the Meng family's political career. In her previous life, Mother Meng could not stand to see Meng Qin getting close to any woman. Every time Meng Qin entered my courtyard, she would try every means to suppress and torment me. In this life, Meng Qin is so attentive to my elder sister, how could she not hate it? Now that she finally has a reason to vent her anger freely, how could she be willing to give it up easily? So she knew that making a scene at this moment would bring her no benefit, but she still didn't want to let it go lightly. "You must give us an explanation. Although my Meng family is not a wealthy and noble household, we are still a scholarly family of good reputation. How can we marry a woman of questionable character so ambiguously?" I said. "That's easy to handle. Today, in my capacity as the crown princess, I will make a guarantee. My elder sister has absolutely no involvement with any man other than Meng Qin. After the child is born, a blood test can be conducted to confirm paternity. If the child is not from the Meng family, my elder sister and the child will be at the mercy of the Meng household. I will also voluntarily leave the Crown Prince's residence." Seeing how resolute I was, Mother Meng could no longer say anything. "Then let it be for now." After leaving the Meng residence, my elder sister took my hand and said gratefully, "Ah Li, I never expected you to trust me so much. Willing to vouch for me like this. I have wronged you too much regarding Meng Qin's matter." I shook my head. My elder sister is simple-minded, so it's only natural that she was deceived by Meng Qin. I once genuinely liked Meng Qin. Moreover, in my previous life, when I refused to change the marriage arrangement, my elder sister never did anything to harm me. The people I have always hated are only the Meng family, given a second chance at life. I only want to stay away from Meng Qin and live my own life well. As for revenge, it's not that I haven't thought about it, but my abilities are limited, and being able to protect myself is already quite good. Returning to the Pei residence. Peisha was leaning on the couch reading a book. A gentle breeze stirred his sleeves, creating a picture of peaceful times. Seeing me, she hurriedly ordered the servants to bring out the prepared meal. In that moment, I felt a long-lost sense of home. That was when I was very young, and my mother was still alive. When I returned to the courtyard after playing until I was tired, my mother would wait for me just like that. Peisha did not ask me about what happened at the Yang residence. I breathed a sigh of relief, as I truly hadn't figured out how to tell him. Looking at Peisha's handsome face, I felt an inexplicable urge. I wanted to give him a hug. Glancing at the servants around, I still gave up on that impulse. Walked over and grabbed his sleeve. "Keep me company while I eat." Peisha smiled faintly. "All right." In the evening, I lay in bed with Peisha as usual. There was still a wide gap between us. I hesitated for a moment, then slowly moved closer and hugged him. I could clearly feel Peisha's body stiffen for an instant. I spoke to myself, "Peisha, I haven't properly thanked you yet. Thank you for being willing to help me unconditionally, and for not exposing me and my elder sister when we switched marriages, even helping us explain and cover it up. Also, thank you for taking me in and giving me a home. From now on, the Pei residence will be my home. I also don't mind your issues in that regard, so don't feel any psychological pressure." Peisha fell silent for a moment, his voice tinged with a hint of gritted teeth. "What kind of problem?" I timidly said. "Well, it's about fertility." Before I could finish, Peisha leaned in and kissed me, cutting off the rest of my words in my throat. As it turns out, street rumors are not to be trusted. Peisha was not only not impotent, but he was quite capable. Not long after, I was found to be pregnant. The prince and princess were overjoyed, showering me with countless rare treasures. Even the emperor bestowed many tonics upon me. Upon hearing this, my mother was also very pleased. She personally embroidered some children's clothes and hats and sent them over. I inquired about her elder sister's recent situation. Mother actually wiped away her tears and said, "Since I last saw Peach, I haven't seen her for months. The Meng family won't let her go out casually, saying they're afraid something might happen to the child." I thought to myself, this is bad. This is a form of imprisonment. In my previous life, I was locked up like this, not allowed to see any family or friends. I found an excuse to visit my elder sister. The guards at the door stopped me. They said the young mistress would not see any outsiders for the time being. So I changed my mind and said I wanted to see Meng Qin. The guard hesitated for a moment before going to announce my arrival. Not long after, I was invited into the Meng residence. Meng Qin seemed quite surprised to see me. "Ali, have you come to your senses?" I knew it. After so many years as husband and wife, you wouldn't be willing to give up on me. Meng Qin's words made me feel nauseous. I couldn't help but retch. Meng Qin looked concerned. "Are you okay, Ali?" I waved my hand. "It's nothing, just pregnant." Meng Qin was shocked. "You're pregnant? That's impossible. Peisha is clearly a good-for-nothing. Whose child are you carrying?" I said coldly. "Peisha is much better than you. Since you've already married my elder sister, I hope you will be devoted to her. Where have you locked her up? I want to see her." Hearing this, Meng Qin's expression changed slightly. "Ali, do you know how much I regret it in my heart? After Dao and I got married, she became like a different person. She was jealous and picky all day long, and even complained that my mother was setting rules for her. She was not as obedient and sensible as you at all, and after she got pregnant, the scars on her stomach looked really disgusting, making me lose all interest. I remember that after you gave birth to 2 children, your skin was still as delicate as a baby's." At this point, Meng Qin narrowed his eyes nostalgically. "Do you know how much I miss you?" After saying that, Meng Qin moved as if to hug me. I lifted my foot and kicked him away. Meng Qin looked somewhat hurt. "Don't you miss me, and our 2 children?" At this point, I became even more furious. If it weren't for that little bastard, I wouldn't have died so early in my previous life. I lashed out at Meng Qin with a torrent of curses. "What do you want me to miss about you? The times you drank too much, hit me, cursed at me, and imprisoned me? Or the times you allowed your mother and the servants to torment and mistreat me? Elder sister is carrying your child. How dare you despise her? Go and see if your own mother also has scars from giving birth to you. Would you despise her too?" You are truly worse than an animal. I advise you to release elder sister as soon as possible, or father will never let you off." After listening, Meng Qin revealed a hint of a mocking smile. "Now that you're the crown princess, even your words have become more forceful. If you were usually this formidable, perhaps I wouldn't have fallen for a Tao. Ask your father, does he dare tell his majesty about your elder sister, unless he no longer cares about his career? But if you're still willing to accompany me a few more times, I wouldn't mind letting you sisters meet again." I tried hard to calm my anger and sneered coldly. "Meng Qin, you are truly shameless. My elder sister and I were never close to begin with, and she even stole my marriage. If it weren't for my mother's plea, I wouldn't have bothered helping her this time. If you want to lock her up, go ahead and do so." With that, I left the Meng residence without looking back. I silently thought to myself, all of this was my elder sister's own choice. It has nothing to do with me. I can barely protect myself, let alone have any extra ability to help her. Seeing my distracted state, Paisha couldn't help but speak up. "Are you sure you don't intend to save your elder sister? The Meng family has been too arrogant lately. I never planned to let them off." My heart skipped a beat. "How did you know?" Paisha sighed helplessly. "Before, you mentioned that someone in the Yang residence had hit you. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to handle it alone and wouldn't tell me. So I sent a hidden guard to protect you in secret. Don't misunderstand, it wasn't meant to deliberately pry into your affairs. It's just that they said you seemed to be in trouble." Watching Paisha flusteredly explain, "I feel truly fortunate in this life." I told Paisha everything about my rebirth in detail. The heartache in Paisha's eyes turned into intense anger. Such an outrageous thing, and Paisha still chose to believe me without hesitation. "Meng Qin is bringing this upon himself. The emperor has long wanted to investigate and punish a group of corrupt officials to restore integrity in the court. Paisha took the initiative to lead the charge in handling this matter. Lord Meng's buying and selling of official positions, along with his corruption and bending of the law, could no longer be concealed. The Meng residence was ordered to be raided and confiscated. On the day of the raid, I finally saw my elder sister again. Following Paisha, her unborn child had grown, but she herself had become noticeably thinner. Seeing me, she instantly burst into tears. "Ali, I truly regret it. Meng Qin is really not a good man. I shouldn't have ignored your advice back then." I helped my elder sister up and handed her the divorce papers. "You are free now." Meng Qin refused to sign the divorce agreement, so Paisha simply had someone else write one up, held him down, and forced him to press his fingerprint. When Meng Qin saw us, he kept cursing and shouting. He even told Paisha that he and I had already been intimate. He said there was a mole on the small of my back, trying to drag me down with them. I was startled into a cold sweat. Fortunately, I had told Paisha about my rebirth, otherwise, I would have been terrified that I couldn't explain myself clearly. Paisha couldn't be bothered to spare Meng Qin another glance. "I've said it before, if you harass her again, the Meng family can expect to be raided." With that, he handed the man directly over to the Dali temple. Meng Qin's face turned ashen. The prison of the Dali temple is notoriously terrifying. The punishments inside are enough to make one's courage flee. It's hard to say how many of them Meng Qin's frail body can withstand. Not long after, the eldest sister gave birth to a boy. The eldest sister was quite fortunate, having a father and mother who cherished her. They brought her back to the Yang residence. The child was then raised as a member of the Yang family. Later, when others tried to introduce eligible men to the eldest sister, all were flatly refused by my elder sister. 5 years later, my daughter Dudu with Paisha also began her education. The princess had long since handed over the management of the household to me, citing poor health as the reason. She enjoyed her leisure, delighting in the happiness of doting on her grandchildren every day. I am overwhelmed with busyness every single day. Dudu has been spoiled by Paisha to the point of being utterly unruly. She jumps around all day long, even more mischievous than the average boy. When I finally had to pull her down from the tree again, I could no longer bear it. "Paisha, get out here right now." I scolded the father and daughter so harshly that neither dared to utter a word in rebuttal. Paisha hung his head, looking as if he knew he was in the wrong. Yet, the moment I turned away, he quietly curled the corners of his mouth into a smile. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. While practicing martial arts, my son accidentally bumped into my husband's cherished one, and he tied our son tightly to a wooden stake to be scorched by the sun. Under the blazing sun, seeing our child's face growing paler, I knelt and pleaded, "Hunger is still young, he is frail and sickly, he can't withstand the scorching sun, he'll faint." He didn't mean to offend his sister. I'll make him apologize, make him kowtow to her to atone. Please, just let him come back first. My forehead was covered in blood from the impact. Yet my husband held my elder sister by the waist, tenderly wiping the sweat from her forehead. If not for your usual indulgence, how could he have been so disrespectful? As the commander of the 3 armies, do I not know how to discipline my own child? Excessive motherly love leads to a child's ruin, and that's exactly what you're doing. To prevent me from secretly rescuing the child, he ordered me to be locked in the woodshed under strict surveillance. When I was finally released, I saw my son with a flushed face, already weak and breathless from heat stroke and high fever. Yet my husband was in the pavilion with his legitimate sister, sipping tea and admiring the lotus flowers, chatting and laughing merrily. Outside the Imperial Medical Academy, facing the elderly lady of the royal mansion who had rushed over upon hearing the news, I finally broke down and wept bitterly. Henna's life hangs by a thread, and the 10-year agreement has come to an end. I beg you to allow me to divorce my husband. Outside the door of the Imperial Medical Academy, from inside came Henna's intermittent, agonizing cries. Each sound was like a blunt knife, repeatedly cutting into my heart. The imperial physician walked out with a grave expression. He looked at me and shook his head heavily. Master Henna's constitution was already weak. This time, the summer heat has invaded his body, causing severe damage to his internal organs. I'm afraid he won't make it through the night. My vision grew dark in waves, and I could barely stand. This can't be. Henna was only out in the sun for half a day. How could? The imperial physician hesitated for a moment before finally revealing the truth. The young master is severely dehydrated, with deep rope marks on his wrists and ankles. Clearly, he was tied up under the scorching sun. This is no ordinary case of heat stroke. What? A sharp shout came from outside the door as the matriarch of the Han family, leaning on her cane, walked in with a face ashen with rage. What on earth happened? Who dares to treat my Han family's legitimate grandson this way? Go, summon the housekeeper at once. The Han family's steward was quickly brought in, trembling as he revealed the truth. Please calm your anger, madam, it was the master and Miss Liu's orders. The master instructed us not to send water on time. Miss Liu also said she was afraid the young master might break free, so she told me to tighten the ropes even more. They said they wanted to teach the young master a lesson. Every word felt like a heavy hammer, striking hard at my heart and at the old lady's heart as well. The old lady clutched her chest in anger, scolding sharply, "That beast Hanyu, he won't even spare his own flesh and blood. Someone, go find that unfilial son and bring him back to me at once." The servant hurried off to carry out the order. However, not long after, only a young attendant returned. The attendant held a brocade box, saying it was a tonic sent by the general. The general said he is currently practicing a newly learned spear technique with Miss Liu and cannot leave. In a fit of rage, the old lady snatched the brocade box and struck it hard on the ground with her cane, then went in to check on Han Heng's condition. The brocade box shattered, and the ginseng inside rolled out. The imperial physician frowned, picked it up, and took a sniff, but his expression changed dramatically. This ginseng has been tampered with, secretly laced with the powder of the feverish divine pill. This medicine is extremely potent and fiery in nature. Even ordinary people must take it with caution. Young Master Heng has been frail and heat-sensitive since childhood. If he takes it, he will surely die. I felt as if struck by lightning, my entire body turning cold. I had always thought that Han Yu simply disliked Henna and favored Liu Ruiyue, but I never imagined that he would actually want Henna's life. Even a vicious tiger does not eat its own cubs. How could he be so heartless? At that moment, a heart-wrenching desperate cry suddenly came from the imperial physician's chamber. My heart sank, and I rushed in like a madman. The old lady lay over Han Heng's small, lifeless body, wailing uncontrollably. Despite it being the height of summer, I felt icy cold all over and collapsed to the ground. I don't know how much time passed before the old lady, her eyes swollen and red, walked over to me, her voice choked with sobs. Heng'e was a bright and talented child. But his own father let him die under the scorching sun. It's all my fault for failing to discipline my son properly. I know you've long wanted to leave, but after all, you and Han Yu once loved each other. Could you, for the sake of my old face, give him one last chance? I closed my eyes, recalling everything from 10 years ago. Back then, Han Yu was afflicted with a strange poison, his life hanging by a thread. All the doctors in the capital were at a loss. It was the elderly madam. She remembered that I had studied medicine since childhood under my maternal grandfather, a reclusive divine physician, so she personally came to my door, knelt before me, and begged me to save Han Yu, even though I knew his future was uncertain after being poisoned, and even though I knew my legitimate elder sister, Liu Ruyue, had broken off her engagement with him because of it. I still agreed to marry him, not only because the elderly madam had once shown me kindness, but also because, since my youth, I had been captivated by this dashing young general. For 10 years after marrying into the Han household, I served tirelessly and devotedly, never leaving his side. I risked my life testing medicines, narrowly escaping death, just to pull him back from the brink of the underworld. I helped him regain his martial arts skills, nursed his health, enabling him to return to the battlefield, achieve great deeds, and rise step by step to the high position of commander of the 3 armies. I thought he saw all my efforts and kept them in his heart. I thought that with Heng'e, we could finally taste the sweetness after all the bitterness and stay together for a lifetime. Yet I never imagined that 10 years of deep affection and 10 years of sacrifice would lead to such a heartbreaking separation of flesh and blood today. I forced back the surging tears, opened my eyes to look at the old lady. My voice calm and devoid of any ripple. The Han family has given me a second chance at life, but I have also cured Han Yu. Now that Heng'e is gone, I no longer hold any expectations for Han Yu. I begged the old lady to let me leave. With that, I knelt on the ground, refusing to rise. Tears continuously streaming down my face. The old lady sighed helplessly and left, lamenting the misfortune. Once everything was properly arranged, I forced my sore and exhausted body to return to the Han residence. As soon as I stepped through the gate, a burst of laughter clearly reached my ears from across the courtyard. In the center of the training ground, Han Yu and Liu Ruyue held long swords, smiling at each other. He held her hand, adjusted her sword-holding posture, leaned in to whisper in her ear. His movements intimate without the slightest hint of restraint. I stared intently at Han Yu's waist. Tied around his waist was a belt, embroidered with peonies, a design Liu Ruyue was most skilled at. And the green bamboo belt I had spent several sleepless nights embroidering for him was now cast aside, trampled underfoot by a servant. Brother Yu, Liu Ruyue cooed with a soft laugh, leaning gently into Han Yu's embrace. Once Qingyi is divorced and sent back to the Liu family, I can rightfully take my place in the Han residence, can't I? Han Yu held her close, tenderly stroking her flat stomach as he made a heartfelt promise. Soon, once she is gone, I will welcome you through the gates with a grand procession of 8 sedan chairs. By then, you will be the sole mistress of the Han household. Liu Ruyue, however, feigned worry and furrowed her brows. But what if the old lady doesn't agree? She has always favored Qingyi and that little bastard. Han Yu sneered disdainfully. She's only esteemed because of her son. If it weren't for Han Heng, the old lady wouldn't pay her much attention. I clenched my palm tightly, letting the blood flow. I turned to flee from this nauseating place, but in my panic, I stumbled and knocked over the weapon rack leaning against the door. The piercing sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. Both of them turned around abruptly. Han Yu, far from being embarrassed, strode forward holding Liu Rui's hand, his gaze toward me filled with coldness and disgust. Liu Qingyi, it seems you're growing more and more insolent. Not only did you defy my orders and take Han Heng to the old lady's place without permission, But you even dared to stir up trouble and complain about me in front of the old lady. Ha, you don't really think the old lady can protect you and your son, do you? I'm the one in charge of the Han household now. Hurry up and go call that brat Han Heng over to Kowtow and apologize to Ruyue. Han Yu, that's your own flesh and blood. How can you be so heartless? Besides, Henge has already. Shut up. Before she could finish, he cut her off roughly. Then, a tremendous force kicked me hard in the chest. I staggered backward a few steps and fell heavily to the ground, feeling as if all my internal organs were out of place. With a sweet taste rising in my throat, I knew you'd find an excuse for him. What? If it weren't for those underhanded tactics you used back then? Stealing the credit and position that rightfully belonged to Ruyue, she would be the one standing here today. I clutched my chest, which was in excruciating pain, gasping for breath as blood continuously trickled from the corner of my mouth. In my blurred vision, I looked at the man before me, both familiar and strange. I don't know what Liu Ruyue said to him back then. Ever since he reunited with Liu Ruyue, who had returned to the capital 3 years ago, he seemed like a completely different person. No matter how much the old madam and I explained or how much evidence we presented, he stubbornly believed that it was my despicable methods and vanity that tore him and Liu Ruyue apart back then. Liu Ruyue curled her lips but pretended to wipe away tears. Brother Yu, don't speak of Qingyi like that. She was just momentarily blinded by greed, craving wealth and glory, wanting to marry you and rise to the top in one step. After all, Han Heng is my nephew. Maybe we should just let it go. I couldn't take it anymore, spat out a mouthful of bloody foam, and roared hoarsely, enough. Liu Ruyue, who ordered someone to tie Henge under the scorching sun, who prepared the blazing divine pill for him. You're worse than beasts. Liu Ruyue, however, seemed frightened by my words, pointing at me with tears welling up in her eyes. Sister, I truly never expected you to become so vicious now. That medicine was prepared by me for the butler to take over. I also felt sorry for the child and wanted to teach him some discipline. How could you slander me like this? Han Yu's expression changed instantly. He couldn't bear to see his legitimate sister suffer even the slightest grievance. And he kicked me hard in the abdomen once again. Who do you think you're trying to intimidate here? Don't think that just because the old lady is protecting you, you can shout at Ruyue. Let me tell you, in my heart, Ruyue is the rightful mistress of this general's mansion. It's only natural for her to discipline my son. Besides, I've seen that medicine myself. It's clearly a top-quality tonic. If you dare slander Ruyue again, don't blame me for being rude to you. Ha ha, ha ha ha. I lay sprawled on the ground, utterly disheveled, yet I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Han Yu, how much more impolite do you plan to be, anyway, right now? You believe everything Liu Ruyue says. What's the use of me saying anything more? But what about Henge? He's only 7 years old. What did he do wrong? He just accidentally knocked over Liu Ruyue during the martial arts performance. Does he deserve to die for that, for the sake of such a venomous woman? You've killed your own flesh and blood. Han Yu, you will surely face retribution. I smiled, but tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. Han Yu's expression suddenly changed. What did you say? Liu Ruyue, however, immediately burst into tears in his arms, gasping for breath as she clung to his arm. Sister, if you despise me and slander me, that's one thing. But how could you curse your own child to die? You acting like this, how heartbroken the general would be to hear it. Upon hearing Liu Ruyue's words, the doubt in Han Yu's eyes vanished. He snorted coldly. A doting mother spoils the child, to avoid punishment. You'd curse your own son to death, such a malicious thought you could come up with. Han Heng was corrupted by a poisonous woman like you. It's just the usual physical training in the military, and he can't even endure a little hardship. He deserves to be unworthy of being the heir of the Han family. As he spoke, his anger surged, and he roughly dragged me toward the woodshed, forcing me to reflect on my actions. The grief of losing my son, combined with the various injuries on my body, overwhelmed me, and I could no longer hold on. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, before losing consciousness, I seemed to catch a flicker of concern in Han Yu's eyes. When I woke up again, a sharp pain coursed through my body. I couldn't move an inch, and even breathing tugged at a dull ache in my chest. The maid beside me replied tremblingly, "It was Han Yu who personally carried me back. He settled me in his own bedroom. How ironic, he's afraid that if I die, there will be no one left for him and Liu Ruiyue to torment to their heart's content. No one outside would believe it. The master bedroom of the general's mansion has not allowed me to set foot in it since I gave birth to Hanga, and Han Yu gradually grew disgusted and cold toward me. I got up and went back to the side room to pack my things." Side chamber, as the name suggests, it is the most remote and dilapidated room in the general's mansion. Even the servants disdain the damp and chilly conditions, unwilling to reside there. Yet, this is the home where Hanga and I have depended on each other for many years. However, the sight before me made my blood freeze instantly. The door was wide open, and a few rough maids were throwing things out of the room. Hanga's beloved wooden sword, books, and toys were all trampled and broken. As I stood there in a daze, Liu Ruiyue actually ordered the servants to cut up the small flag that Hanga cherished most. That was the battle flag that Han Yu brought back from the battlefield, which Hanga treasured as a precious possession. "Stop, what are you doing? That's Hanga's thing. You're not allowed to touch it." My eyes were wide with fury, and I almost stumbled forward in a rush, but I had only taken 2 steps when several maids, who had long been given the signal, firmly blocked my way. Leaving me unable to move, Liu Ruiyue turned her head and saw my disheveled state. Her eyes filled with smugness and malice. "Oh, Qingyi, you're awake." She held the broken flag in 2 pieces, deliberately waving it in front of me. Such a tattered thing should have been thrown away long ago. I rushed forward to try and save it, but was firmly blocked by several maids. No matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't move an inch closer. She shook the last item in her hand. That is the piece jade pendant that Hanga has worn since childhood. The jade pendant is of ordinary quality, but I obtained it for him when he was sick as a child, bowing and praying at the temple step by step. These are the last traces Hanga left in this world. She actually wants to destroy all of this. Anger and despair instantly consumed me, and I roared with all my strength. "What on earth do you want? What are you doing? I forgot to tell you. I recently acquired a famous dog from the western regions, and I was just worried about not having a decent doghouse. Brother Yu felt sorry for me and has already given this place to my beloved dog as its home." She weighed the jade pendant in her hand. "As for these worthless trinkets, how could they ever be fit to appear in the nest of my precious, beloved dog?" With that, she flicked her wrist, making as if to hurl the jade pendant violently to the ground. "No," I let out a heart-wrenching, desperate cry. "Please, Liu Ruiyue, I beg you, that's the only thing Hanga has left. Take whatever you want. Take Han Yu too. I don't want him anymore. I don't want anything. Please give the jade pendant back to me. I'm begging you." I couldn't break free from the old woman's grip, so I could only kneel on the ground in despair, facing Liu Ruiyue's direction, and kowtow forcefully, again and again. The stone slab was soon stained with a glaring red. Yet the sharp pain in my forehead was nothing compared to the agony in my heart. Just then, a voice filled with anger rang out, "Stop!" Han Yu had rushed over at some unknown time. He saw me kneeling on the ground, forehead bleeding and in a sorry state, and seemed to want to help me up. But Liu Yueru was a step ahead of him, walking toward me. I thought that, in the end, she still had a shred of humanity left and was going to return the jade pendant to me. However, just as she was only a step away from me, she raised her hand high. Then, fiercely, she threw that jade pendant onto the ground right in front of me. "No!" I let out a piercing scream, lunging forward frantically, trying to grab the scattered fragments with my hands. The sharp edge instantly cut through my fingers and palm, but I couldn't feel the pain. I only knew to grip it tightly, unwilling to let go of a single piece. Just then, Liu Ruiyue suddenly staggered backward, clutching her stomach. "Ouch!" she exclaimed, leaning against Han Yu with a pale face. "Brother Yu, my stomach hurts so much. My sister didn't mean it, did she? She was just too excited and pushed me." Han Yu's slightly furrowed brow upon seeing the shattered jade pendant was instantly replaced by overwhelming fury. He looked at me, his gaze so cold it felt as if he wanted to tear me apart. "Shen Qingyi," he rushed over. Not even glancing at the scattered fragments of the jade pendant on the ground or the blood covering my hands, He delivered a vicious kick straight to my chest. Bang! My body, already severely injured and not yet healed, was sent flying like a tattered piece of cloth. It felt as if all my internal organs had been displaced, the intense pain making my vision go dark. Han Yu, however, could no longer spare a thought for me. He hurriedly bent down, carefully picking up Liu Ruyue. His tone filled with an unprecedented tension and tenderness. "Yue, how are you? Don't be afraid, I'll take you to find a doctor right away." He held Liu Ruyue and hurried away, never once looking back at me from start to finish. I clutched those fragments tightly, as if holding on to my son's last breath. My vision gradually blurred, and I lost consciousness once again. But this time, I wasn't fortunate enough to wake up naturally. This time, I was jolted awake by the pain. The icy water splashed on my face, the biting cold jolting me awake. A burning pain all over my body forced my eyes open, the glaring sunlight piercing straight into my vision. I was tied to a pillar in the center of the training ground. "Xianxia, weren't you protecting that bastard of yours?" Ruyue said that as long as Han Heng is willing to personally go and kowtow to apologize to her, she will let bygones be bygones. "When your precious son comes to his senses, that's when I'll let you down." So he still didn't believe that Henge was already dead. He thought Henge was just hiding. The scorching sun hung high in the sky, its fierce rays baking the earth. The wounds on my body felt as if they were about to split open under the high temperature, burning with a fiery pain. My consciousness began to blur, and my vision darkened in waves. Just as I thought I would pass out again, the ropes around me suddenly loosened. I collapsed weakly, only to fall into an embrace that carried a familiar scent. "It's Han Yu." A flicker of concern, barely noticeable, passed through his eyes, but the next second, he was roughly slapping my back, his face full of disgust. "Stop pretending to be dead, it's just a little son, with your frail condition. No wonder you raised someone as useless as Han Heng." Frail. I looked at Han Yu, so close at hand. At this face I had once been infatuated with for years, but now only felt loathing for. The pent-up grief, despair, and resentment in my heart erupted violently at this moment. I used the last bit of my strength, raised my hand, and slapped him hard across the face. Slap! A crisp, resounding slap landed heavily on Han Yu's face. The entire training ground fell into a deathly silence in an instant. Han Yu covered his slapped cheek, staring at me in shock, his eyes filled with unbelievable fury. "Xianxia, how dare you hit me?" I looked at him and suddenly laughed. A laugh that was desolate and wild. Why wouldn't I dare? My voice was hoarse, yet it carried a desperate resolve to go all out. "General Han, do you know that I have long been tormented by you and Liu Ruyue, left with scars all over and internal organs damaged? I am about to leave anyway. This broken body can't withstand any more torment. Perhaps in a moment, I will breathe my last. What do I have to fear? You want Henge to apologize to Liu Ruyue? Fine. Then you can go and die too. Go to the underworld and find him there." "What did you say?" I said. "Henge is dead. He died on the training ground. He died at the hands of your beloved venomous woman." I laughed almost maniacally, yet tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. Han Yu's face instantly turned ashen, and he raised his hand to strike again. Just then, a servant hurriedly ran over. "General, someone from the palace has arrived, urgently summoning you to enter the palace." Han Yu's movements came to a halt. He glared at me fiercely, his eyes dark and menacing. "Consider yourself lucky. This time, I'll let you off." After saying that, he straightened his robes and followed the servant away with long strides, not looking back, watching his figure disappear at the far end of the training ground. The last faint flicker of hope in my heart was completely extinguished. The next day, as soon as dawn broke, I packed up the few belongings I had. Calling it luggage is an overstatement. It's just a small bundle containing a few old clothes and the fragments of Henge's jade pendant. After one last glance at the Han residence, I turned and walked away, but Han Yu and Liu Yuayu suddenly rushed out and stopped me. Liu Yuayu looked as if she had suffered a great injustice. Pointing at me, she demanded sharply, "Xianxia, how cruel you are. Why did you poison Henge's tonic? You wanted to poison Henge and then frame me for it, didn't you?" I was stunned. Liu Ruyue, however, seemed to have found an outlet for her emotions. She threw herself into Han Yu's arms, weeping as if her heart would break. Brother Yu, back then, she forced me to give up my engagement with you, and now she's afraid that I'll enter the Han residence and threaten her position. She actually had the heart to poison her own biological son. Just to frame me, to win your sympathy, she cried with tears streaming down her face, acting with genuine emotion. The surrounding servants began to whisper among themselves, looking at me with suspicion and disdain in their eyes. To think someone actually believed her nonsense. I was trembling with rage. Confronting her publicly. If I wanted to harm Henge, why wouldn't I wait until he masters martial arts and can support me in the Han household? He is my only child. The flesh and blood I carried for 10 months and brought into this world with such hardship. You are the only reason I have to keep living in this man-eating mansion. How could I possibly harm him? My voice choked with sobs, tears once again flowing uncontrollably, but Liu Ruiyue refused to let it go, suddenly pulling a packet of medicinal powder from her sleeve. This is the poison found in your room. I recognized it at once as the fever god pill that Han Yu had given to Henge. And I immediately understood that she had planned this all along, so she had planned everything from the start. I was about to leave, yet she still wouldn't let me go. She won't be satisfied until I'm dead. Han Yu stared at the packet of powder, his face ashen. He still seemed unable to fully accept that Henge was dead, but Liu Ruiyue's evidence and tearful accusations clearly made him even more convinced that I, the mother, had killed his son. The look he gave me was filled with disappointment, anger, and undisguised murderous intent. Guards, take her to the ancestral hall. I will execute this poisonous woman according to family law. Several servants stepped forward and grabbed my arms. I was unwilling, yet I couldn't move. At this critical moment. Stop. A hoarse yet authoritative shout came from outside the door. The door was abruptly pushed open from the outside. Supported by several servants, Madame Han walked in. She scanned the room. Finally fixing her sharp gaze firmly on Liu Ruiyue, trembling, she pointed at Liu Ruiyue and spoke word by word. The one who killed my grandson was not Qingyi. It was that venomous woman Liu Ruiyue with a heart as vicious as a snake. The one who saved my son Han Yu back then was also Qingyi. Today, I, an old woman, will restore justice for Shen Qingyi in front of everyone. The elderly lady turned to the nanny behind her and took an exquisite brocade box. She retrieved a piece of yellowed silk. Upon seeing this, Liu Ruiyue's face suddenly turned deathly pale. Liu Ruiyue, do you dare to swear to heaven that if it wasn't you who saved Han Yu back then, you will be struck by lightning and die a terrible death? Liu Ruiyue's eyes flickered, her lips trembling. Yet not a single word could escape them. You don't dare, the old lady sneered, slowly unfurling the yellow silk. This is the medical record established by the divine physician back then. It clearly states that it was Qingyi who, disregarding her own safety, personally tested the medicine to find the method that saved your life. And this savior you hold so dear, Liu Ruiyue, was so afraid of death at the time, terrified of being infected by the illness on you, that she didn't even dare to come near. Every word on the silk cloth was like a red-hot branding iron, searing fiercely into Han Yu's heart. He stared fixedly at the roll of yellow silk, as if trying to bore a hole through it with his gaze. Han Yu's face gradually turned deathly pale. He suddenly looked up at Liu Ruiyue. Ruiyue, tell me, who was it that saved me back then? Liu Ruiyue's face was deathly pale, but she still stubbornly bit her lip, refusing to admit it. Brother Yu, don't believe her. It must be a forgery by them. Henge, have you forgotten that it was she who caused Henge's death? Seeing this, the old lady sneered and clapped her hands again. Bring the evidence up. 2 maidservants entered carrying trays, on which lay a strip of cloth stained with blood and a neatly folded letter. This is the evidence the steward secretly preserved. This cloth strip is the rope that was brutally tied around Henge, cutting into his flesh. It still bears the blood of my poor grandson, and this letter, written in Liu Ruiyue's own hand, instructs the servants on how to tie Henge to the training ground under the scorching sun, and how to mix the so-called fever god pill into the tonic medicine. She wants to use your hand to eliminate Henge, the obstacle in her eyes, to completely sever your last remaining connection with Qingyi. The old lady pointed at her own son, filled with frustration at his failure to meet her expectations. Han Yu's expression gradually shifted from disbelief to shock, and then to anger. Impossible. I didn't write this, they're slandering me. Liu Rui's voice had changed its tone. Her body retreating uncontrollably, Han Yu, however, raised the letter, staring at her intently. I taught you how to write every stroke of your characters. Did you think I wouldn't recognize them? Liu Rui's last shred of hope was shattered. Splash! She suddenly knelt to the ground and crawled toward Han Yu. Brother Yu, I was wrong, it was my fault. I just thought Hunger was too much of an eyesore. He always reminded you of that bitch Xianxia. I was afraid that one day you would change your mind because of him. I love you too much. Brother Yu, back then, I deceived you because I loved you too much and was afraid of losing you, she cried out, trying to use love as an excuse for herself. Han Yu listened to her sobbing, feeling a surge of bitter sweetness rise in his throat. Without a word, he drew the sword from his waist, its cold, gleaming blade pointed directly at Liu Rui. Liu Rui retreated in fear, tears streaming down her face. Brother Yu, I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please don't be like this. Han Yu, however, continued to advance step by step, his face devoid of any of the usual tenderness, replaced only by a bone-chilling coldness. At that moment, a flicker of venom flashed in Liu Rui's eyes. Suddenly, she pulled out a small knife from her bosom and lunged at me. It's all your fault, it's all because of you. If I kill you, brother you will love only me. She moved so fast that I didn't even have time to react. At the critical moment, Han Yu stepped in front of me. Liu Rui screamed in shock and quickly withdrew her hand, but the knife in her grasp had already cut Han Yu's arm. She looked at the wound on Han Yu's arm and hurriedly tried to step forward. Brother Yu, I didn't mean to hurt you. Let me see, get away. Han Yu suddenly kicked her in the chest. Liu Rui was kicked to the ground like a broken rag doll. She clutched her stomach, letting out a pained whimper. Brother Yu, my stomach, I still have your child in my belly. Han Yu's movements paused for a moment, then his eyes flared with even deeper disgust and fury, thinking of how he had been deceived by this woman for a full 10 years. For her, he lost his devoted wife who truly cared for him, lost his only son, and now he almost became an accomplice himself. Rage completely consumed him. He took a step forward and delivered another fierce kick to Liu Rui's abdomen. Liu Rui let out a piercing scream. Han Yu seemed not to hear, his eyes bloodshot, kicking her with all his might. One foot after another. Bitch, poisonous woman, he roared, venting the pent-up regret and anger of being deceived for 10 years, until Liu Rui's wails gradually weakened, and she finally lay motionless on the ground, covered in blood beneath her. He finally stopped, panting heavily. The ancestral hall was deathly silent. Han Yu suddenly knelt before me, kowtowing heavily. Qingyi, I was blinded and caused Hunger's death. His voice was hoarse, tears streaming down his face. Please give me another chance. I promise I'll make it up to you. I took a gentle step back, creating distance between us. It's too late, Han Yu. From the moment Hunger took his last breath, everything was too late. I will never forgive you. The old lady looked at me, her eyes filled with pain and guilt. She took a step forward, tears streaming down her face as she grasped my hand. Qingyi, my dear child, I know you have suffered a great injustice, but Hunger is already gone. It's an irreversible tragedy, and it's our Han family that has wronged you, wronged Hunger. I apologize to you on behalf of the Han family. I beg you, for the sake of this old woman. Forgive Yua for his momentary foolishness. Please stay with the Han family. I will make him compensate you, and our Han family will compensate you. This elderly lady is the only one who has truly been kind to me, but I still gently withdrew my hand and shook my head. Madam, Hunger is gone, and I have no more attachments left in the Han residence. The 10-year agreement has been fulfilled. Please grant me your permission. But the Liu family disowned you 10 years ago. I will not return to that soul-crushing place of the Liu family. I will take Hunger back to my mother's hometown. Madam, let us part ways here. The old madam understood that my mind was made up and nodded sorrowfully. Han Yu heard my decision, yet he seemed to go mad, shouting loudly, Qingyi, you can't leave. I won't allow you to go. You are my wife. Hunger is also my son. "You can't take him away." He struggled to get up and stop me. The old lady's eyes flashed with a sharp glint as she gave a meaningful glance to the butler behind her. The butler understood and stepped forward, grabbing a nearby bronze vase and smashing it against Han Yu's back of the head. Han Yu let out a muffled groan and collapsed to the ground, unconscious. She ordered someone to bring ink, brush, paper, and inkstone, then personally wrote a letter of separation and stamped it with the Han family's seal. Afterwards, he had someone bring over a heavy money pouch. "Chingy, I hope you can find your own happiness in the future." I took the divorce agreement, my fingertips cold, looking at this elder who could distinguish right from wrong but was powerless to change the situation. The last trace of resentment in my heart dissipated. Bowed deeply to her, left without looking back, I returned to my mother's remote hometown. Using the silver given by the old lady, I bought a small courtyard at the edge of the town. Near the foot of the mountain where Hanga's new grave was located, life became very simple. Every day before dawn, I would go to Hanga's grave, keep him company, and wipe the dust off the tombstone. Then I would return home, pound herbs, and see patients. My mother had some knowledge of traditional medicine during her lifetime, and I picked up a bit through exposure, enough to handle the minor ailments of the townsfolk. The hollow in my heart, where a piece had been carved out, seemed to hurt less only when I stood before Hanga's grave. News of Han Yu would occasionally drift to my ears like the wind. I heard that after I left, he fell seriously ill, and when he woke up, he was a completely changed man. He shut himself away all day in the small courtyard where Hanga and I had once lived. Holding our old clothes, I would stare at them for a whole day, often weeping uncontrollably, looking like a madwoman. When I heard these things, my heart remained completely unmoved. His remorse, his pain, what did they have to do with me? Life in the small town went on as usual, until one day, news from the capital reached the town. The elderly lady of the Han family was gravely ill. That old woman, who had once given me a glimmer of warmth, ultimately did not survive that winter. I did not return to attend the funeral. My ties with the Han family had long been severed. He simply bowed gently in the direction of the capital. It was a way of repaying the favor she had shown me by setting me free all those years ago. Later, I heard that he had sent many people to search for me far and wide. I am not surprised. I just never expected that he would actually find this remote little town. While I was treating the neighbor's aunt, I inadvertently caught sight of a familiar yet unfamiliar figure at the street corner. He was dressed in coarse linen clothes, with stubble on his face, yet his posture remained upright. It was Han Yu. He stood there, gazing from afar at my small courtyard, his eyes filled with complexity. I withdrew my gaze and continued to take the aunt's pulse, as if I had never seen him. From that day on, I could always feel that gaze, when I visited Hanga's grave, when I gathered herbs, when I treated the villagers. He watched from afar, never approaching, yet he was everywhere. The townsfolk gradually began to discuss this strange outsider. They said he had rented a thatched cottage in the town, spoke little each day, and often just stared blankly at my small courtyard at the foot of the mountain. Some also saw him visiting Hanga's grave every day. He never spoke, just stood at a distance or sat in silence, staying for hours on end. I only find it utterly ironic. When Hanga was alive, did he ever spare a glance like this? Now that the person is gone, who is he putting on this show of deep affection and loyalty for? Summer arrived, and the mountain torrents erupted. The town, situated by the river, was quickly submerged in murky floodwaters in its low-lying areas. Cries and pleas for help echoed all around. Carrying my medical kit, I trudged through the rain, one step at a time, tending to the injured neighbors. Amid the chaos, I saw Han Yu struggling to rescue people from the floodwaters. I watched him being swept away by the flood, then struggling to climb back onto the shore, with several new gashes on his body from being scraped by rubble and debris. In the end, while trying to rescue a little girl trapped on a rooftop, he was struck in the back by a broken log that had been washed downstream and was instantly swept into the deeper currents of the river. I stood there, gripping the medicine kit tightly. In the end, a few brave villagers worked together to pull him out from downstream. He was covered in wounds, his face deathly pale, and was carried into my small courtyard. Saving lives and healing the wounded is the duty of a physician. It has nothing to do with who he is. Later, when he woke up, he saw the items placed by the bedside. It is a letter I left behind, General Han. The ties of gratitude and resentment between us have long been severed. I saved you simply out of the duty of a healer, fulfilling my responsibility. Now that your injuries have stabilized, please leave at once. In this life, in this world, we shall never meet again. After reading the letter, his face turned ashen, and the light in his eyes gradually faded away. But he still did not leave. After his injuries had healed somewhat, he left my small courtyard, yet stubbornly remained in the town. He goes to Hunger's grave every day, rain or shine. He also comes to the gate of my small courtyard, standing in silence, or gently knocking on the door. Chingy, I know I was wrong, Chingy. Let me see you, please, Chingy. I'm sorry to Hunger. His voice was filled with pain and remorse, but I never opened the door. I only felt noise, only felt disgust. He persisted for another month, and my patience was exhausted. Finally, on a rainy day, I opened the door. He knelt in the mud, soaked through, looking utterly wretched. When he saw me, a flicker of surprise and panic flashed in his eyes. This is the first time in months that I've looked him directly in the eye. Han Yu. Do you remember, when Hanger was little, the person he admired most was you? He froze, a flicker of confusion flashing in his eyes. He said his father is a great general, a peerless hero who guards the border, protects the homeland, and defends the nation. He often holds a wooden stick, imitating the way you practice with the spear, saying that when he grows up, he wants to be like his father, fighting on the battlefield. Han Yu's body trembled slightly, his lips quivering. But no sound came out. That is the last, and the best, image of you in his heart. What do you look like now? Are you going to shatter even the last bit of affection he held for you in his heart with your own hands? Do you know, every night, I dream of Hunger smiling and calling me mother, but every time I wake up, thinking of how he died, thinking that it was you who killed him, I am overwhelmed with unbearable pain. Han Yu, if you truly feel guilty, if you truly care about me, then leave, get as far away as possible, and never appear before me again. After saying that, I closed the door. That night, he stood outside the door for a very, very long time. I left only after the rain stopped, and I also left the town. Later on, I heard that a god of slaughter surnamed Han had emerged at the border. In battle, he was fearless and exceptionally brave, as if he had no regard for his own life. He achieved great military feats and also suffered countless injuries, until that day. A weary soldier found his way to my small courtyard. He wore the uniform of a border guard, a scar etched across his face. He handed me a brocade box. This is what General Han entrusted to me before he died, insisting I deliver it to you personally. I didn't take it. The soldier placed the brocade box on the stone steps in front of the door. The general said he knows his sins are heavy and has no right to ask for your forgiveness. He died in battle, on the path of the charge. His only wish before death was for me to bring this to you. The soldier finished speaking on his own and opened the brocade box. Inside was a warm, smooth jade pendant. It was the jade pendant passed down through generations of the Han family, symbolizing the status of the matriarch. Back when the old lady was gravely ill, she had wanted to give it to me, but I refused. I never thought it would end up in my hands in the end, the general said. He begs you to bury this jade pendant with the young master's ashes. Let it accompany you on his behalf, and also accompany the young master. After saying this, the soldier bowed deeply to me, then turned and left. I looked at the brocade box on the stone steps, the jade pendant glowing softly in the sunset. Accompany me, what right does he have? I bent down to pick up the brocade box and walked to the foul ditch outside the courtyard, open the brocade box and take out that jade pendant. Without a moment's hesitation, throw it in. The jade pendant fell into the murky ditch water, not even making a sound, instantly swallowed up. Belated affection is cheaper than grass. What right does he have to disturb the peace of Hunger and me even after his death? Han Yu, I hope we never meet again. For all eternity. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.